The year was 1910, and the island of Pohnpei, a lush paradise in the Federated States of Micronesia, was under the iron grip of German colonial rule. The people of Sokehs Island, a small enclave off the coast of Pohnpei, had long simmered under the yoke of foreign oppression. Their traditional way of life was being eroded, their land seized, and their spirits crushed. Among the Sokehs people, a young warrior named Sumado emerged as a symbol of resistance. With piercing eyes and a heart full of fire, he rallied his people against the encroaching German influence. He spoke of their ancestors, of their proud heritage, and of the injustices they had endured. His words ignited a spark of defiance in the hearts of his listeners, and soon, a rebellion was brewing. The rebellion erupted in October 1910, a whirlwind of violence that swept across Sokehs Island. The Germans, caught off guard by the ferocity of the uprising, were quickly overwhelmed. District Administrator Gustav Boder and 3 other German officials were brutally murdered, their bodies left to rot in the jungle. The rebels, armed with traditional weapons and fueled by a burning sense of injustice, held their ground against the vastly superior German forces. News of the rebellion reached the German authorities in the colonial capital of Colonia, sending shockwaves through the administration. Reinforcements were dispatched to quell the uprising, but the rebels, led by Samuel's strategic brilliance, proved to be elusive foes. They employed guerrilla tactics, disappearing into the dense jungle when the Germans advanced and reappearing to strike when the opportunity arose. The German response was swift and brutal. They unleashed their full military might upon the island, raining down artillery fire and sending troops to hunt down the rebels. The lush green landscape of Sokehs was transformed into a battleground, scarred by the ravages of war. The rebels, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with unwavering courage, but the tide of the conflict began to turn against them. As the fighting dragged on, the rebels faced dwindling supplies and growing desperation. Many were forced to flee the island, seeking refuge among the other Pohnpeian tribes. Samuel, however, remained defiant, refusing to surrender. He believed that the fight for freedom was not over, that his people would eventually prevail. The turning point came in February 1911, when Sumado and a handful of his followers were captured by the Germans. They were tried in a kangaroo court and sentenced to death. On February 24th, they were executed by firing squad, their bodies buried in a mass grave. With the death of their leader, the Sokehs Rebellion crumbled. The remaining rebels, facing overwhelming odds, were forced to surrender. The Germans, having crushed the uprising, imposed harsh penalties on the Sokehs people. Many were exiled to the neighboring island of Palau, their lives forever disrupted.